everybody. I'm Laura Ferri, and welcome to the My Inner Struggle podcast. We're talking everything personal growth, business, and lifestyle. I'm really excited today because I have been a longtime lurker, new time member. I'm with Emily Rose from Thrive Embodied Arts in Newton. Welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Um, I not everybody knows what you guys do there, and I know it's like sometimes it feels like it's behind the scenes. And honestly, I'm a little nervous even about doing this podcast because I kind of like keeping this secret identity to myself. I've mentioned it a few times in my blog, and on some, videos that I've done, but it's an amazing place with amazing experience, a great atmosphere, and it's just so warm and welcoming. And I think it's like too good not to share. So I've been dying to have this conversation with you for quite a while, actually, way before I was a member. Like I said, longtime lurker. So I'd love to talk about that and the journey inspiration. I know you guys started off against all odds and all of that. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about uh, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, this is such a good question. Let's see, where do I want to begin today? I think, okay, so before the studio was, a physical space, and I grew up in this area. So I took some time away, but I was born and raised in this area. And then, you do the figure out your life thing and maybe come back, maybe don't. I did. But before the studio was a physical space, I traveled and taught what you see now in the studio. And I would go to spaces and do residencies and kind of take over their programs for a little bit of time. And when I found myself in this one place, I'm very good friends with the owner now. I didn't know her at the time, but the community kind of stopped me in my tracks. She had built something so unique, so palpable, so powerful in just the, small amount of time that I had spent there, that I realized that that was going to be my last round of traveling, and it was time to bring my lens of this type of work back to the area that I grew up in, back to the roots, to kind of a sleepy town where this energy wasn't really alive. And I guess I haven't really shared much about the energy, but I taught all central movement, pole dance, and embodiment in a time when primarily using the pole and pole dancing was very fitness based, or just overtly sexy.
Hmm.
So yeah, the studio is a central movement space. It really is community based. We have poles, we have space for lots of different types of movement. I often think that the poles might scare people, but they're really just a tool to see yourself deeper. And yeah, so I made a choice. I said, okay, you know what? Time to lay some roots back where I grew up. Didn't know that I would come back home, truthfully. But took a year developing a plan, kind of made a pact with myself about some goals, gave
Hmm.
myself a year because I come from an artist background, and traveling and just kind of flying by the seat of my pants was more comfortable to me than having like a concrete plan
Yes.
and
Yes.
responsibilities. So
Yes.
that's probably a topic that we can dive into a little bit more. But
I
yeah,
know.
give
Yes.
myself a year, and then yeah, I found the studio space and signed the lease on March 1st of 2020 after I had, spent my life savings preparing for the studio, and then we know what happened 2 weeks later.
Right.
So those first few months of, let's call it an incubation period, were really intense because I was really unsure that this thing that I wanted to create, that was based on human connection and sharing space together, would ever actually happen. Like, I
Right.
really was unsure. And then when we were finally able to open through sawdust and sweat and tears and, just hope, maybe hope, it has turned into something beyond my greatest dreams or imagination, and it continues to grow and feed itself because of the people that walk into it.
I
Yeah.
almost wonder, like, because you started out the way that you did, COVID shut everything down and you did virtual classes, right? You were
Yeah.
doing everything was virtual. So I almost wonder if that was really what made it so successful because it was like a toe dip. Maybe it was a little less intimidating than walking into the studio. It took me a really long time to walk into the studio.
Yeah,
And
and that's pretty
it's
normal.
kind of an interesting perception, because it is a little intimidating. But now I went to a class last night. Actually, it was amazing. And I find it so funny how, certain things, happen or you see a certain thing and it reminds you of something or it triggers something or whatever. And I'll talk more about that. But like last night was the first day that I was actually like, there was no hesitation on my part.
Mm,
And it's mainly because of the fear of the unknown, because I joined a few months ago and I've been trying to try out different classes. And it's tough when you like the one, but you're like, but I really want to see what this one is because,
yeah.
whatever. So you try to like, dip and taste all the different things that you have to offer. So it's always that uncomfortable, like, oh, am I going to be able to do it? Or is it going to be really pushing me beyond my comfort zone, which I'm a huge fan of, but
Yeah.
still, it's still hard. And last night I was looking forward to it and I got there and it was just really fucking awesome. Like it was just a great time. And I'm burning your candle right now, actually. So,
Everything I do. Which one are you burning?
um, I can't read it from here, but I think it's the wealthy. I attract wealth or something like that.
Yeah,
Whatever.
nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It smells so good,
Good.
and
I love it.
yeah. So, um, anyway, so you have this special like formula, I think, and it's truly not what people would expect, and I'm saying that on behalf of everyone because people, I would say, in the general population think pole dancing and they think, they have a certain perception of what that is, but it's like so different. Or you make it different,
Yeah.
really. You have this special, yeah, formula that is just super duper uh fucking awesome. There's no other word for it, honestly. But so what about how do I want to say this? It is truly empowering, but why, like, can you explain that in a way? Like
Sure.
what makes that so different from all of the other things? What are we tapping into?
Well, there's a couple gems that you were just talking about. I think something that's important to point out is that, yeah, through COVID, I'm so lucky that actually, I don't like to use the word lucky. I traveled for years, so I was teaching the people that I met across the country online for a couple months. But
Hmm.
everybody that's inside the studio right now, including some of my oldest members and the people that work for us now, I didn't even know. So
Okay.
nobody that was in that pocket, that online portal, is actually physically in the space now. So totally different people.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I would say yes to that theory. And I think maybe in other communities where there's a virtual component that's quite strong, that is maybe like a couple steps in. But yeah, that's almost like completely separate
Wow.
communities, yeah, from that time period. So that's number one. I think what's potent about our area and about women in general is that when you speak to somebody about something that has changed you, and the person you're speaking to sees it in your face, feels it in your body, we're such creatures of resonance that that is what has helped people find the bravery to actually, okay, it's been a year, I've been watching, it's been 2 years, I've been watching, my friend keeps saying this thing, and then they, as you know too, or they follow along and something I say speaks to them.
Right.
So I think that's that. And I also think leading into what keeps us from, um, I don't know, dabbling into our curiosities is this idea of wanting to be good at something that we've seen on the internet, on in TV shows, even if you've been to a really good ass strip club, like, sometimes what you see there is like, wow, I don't know. So I think that for me, I wanted to take away the expectation, the this has to be or look a certain type of way, or just the goal. Like for women, moving our bodies has always been tied to a fitness component. Keep it
Hmm.
tight, keep it young, keep it fit, get a sweat on. As long as I'm working out, as long as I'm staying fit, then it's valid. And I wanted to kind of change the lens and really highlight both embodiment and community and see how much happens for us when that is on the forefront. That yeah, you'll probably get a sweat on in some of these classes, and yeah, you're gonna start to see things changing. When we are relaxed and our nervous system relaxes, everything changes. But for me, the poll just serves as another way to look inward into you. It's kind of an
Hmm.
anchor point. It's a place where you can get some feedback and kind of lean into, literally. But I just really wanted to take away any of the boxes of things that we've seen. Fitness, gotta be sexy, heels kapow this and splits over here. I just really wanted to find a pleasurable way for people to come into their bodies. And truthfully, that starts with the building of trust, which actually starts with sitting in circle and being in community.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I
So
agree. Yeah.
yeah, so I'd say that that's one of the biggest components of any class that we do, and maybe like the, formula. I just look at the physical object so differently. It's like a blank canvas to me. And because I'm such a creative, it's kind of taken me where we are now.
It's really it's it's a really personal sacred experience when you're going through it. And I know that, obviously it's Thrive Embodied Arts. So what do you want to explain to everyone what embodiment means? Because that may not be in the forefront of everyone listening or watching.
Yeah. I think that embodiment again is becoming one of those like buzzwords. Like there was
Manifest is one of
yeah,
yes.
manifest being witchy was very buzzy last year. So it's very interesting to be, I like, for me, I identify with a couple of those things: artist, witch, creative, things like that. Sensitive, highly sensitive. Empath
Hmm.
was very buzzy for a while as
Yep.
well. For us, embodiment is literally making space to spend time with the feedback of your body. It's a little bit abstract. Embodiment as a whole is quite abstract, but it's kind of inviting in the flow versus just going with the go. The body has so much wisdom.
I like that actually. That was good.
Yeah, the body has so much wisdom, and we're constantly asking more of it instead of sitting with the wisdom that it has to share. But our lives are so busy, our minds are so busy, our schedules are jam-packed that there's no way in hell that you can actually hear anything that it's saying to you because you're already wondering about your to-do list and the groceries and am I late to soccer practice? And what about that meeting? And my boss was an asshole today, and things like that.
Hmm.
So embodiment is really like, to me, a definition that I have created is like the art of living. And
I
then
like that.
the second component is the sensuality, which is the pleasure of being there. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I really felt compelled to discover more. And I know that it's like a bit, obviously it's a big topic, but it's basically taking charge of your own sensuality and not leaving anyone, that power with anyone else.
Yeah.
And not just accepting your body but appreciating it for what it is, and all of that. And that was like my big hang up. I remember messaging you back and forth for it was a good couple years, I want to
Yeah.
say. And I said, like, I'm like, my body type doesn't fit the mold, and you're like, yeah, no, that's not an issue,
Yeah.
and
Nothing.
I truly wouldn't didn't believe it. I mean, I know everybody says that, but I didn't believe it until I was there. And then I was like, and one time it was probably like the first, because I did a few different classes first before I became a member. And so finally I was like, oh yeah, fuck that thought. Like, this is stupid. Like, and finally letting go of that was freeing and interesting,
Yeah.
and tapping into some of those things. And there was another thought that I had, but it went squirrel on me. But I think that as women, I kind of did a little deep dive with this a couple weeks ago, but we have this kind of strange, I don't want to say maybe competition at times. And when we stop and like let that bullshit go and just embrace each other and empower each other, it helps us grow and we raise each other up. So, what has that been like? Because there's a lot of personalities in the studio, obviously. Have you ever witnessed anyone not in that sort of same like-minded space as a member, and then like, did it create any kind of issue or anything like that? Or how do you overcome things like that? Because you are working with women who are on their journey. So not everybody has been, is healed or has recognized their own bullshit or anything like that. Like, what is that like?
Oh, I would
I know
say
it was a lot.
no, it's good. What's funny is that there's literally when you become a member, it is part of your contract that you don't talk shit, and one of those components is to yourself. And like
Okay.
you're gonna come up against things. You're moving your body, especially when sensuality is involved. We each have different layers, we have different experiences, we have different things that set us off. So, um, let me just start by saying is that often containers and communities like to preach like safe spaces, right? And that's a beautiful thought. But me, nor any of my instructors, no, nor the amazing person sitting next to you can guarantee safety because it is something that you have to find within your own facility.
Mhm.
You have your own triggers, you have your own traumas. Unfortunately, it becomes our responsibility to nurture that. Now, you can sit in circles and spaces where the space is sacred and brave, and that starts a different dialogue. But what I would say to someone who is maybe coming in a different at a different place, maybe still super critical or super judgy of themselves, maybe or others. If I'm to see it outwardly, it warrants a conversation. I'm a very compassionate person, so I've learned how to have those types of conversations, but essentially that shit gets nipped in the butt.
Oh, cool. I was
Yeah.
curious about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no. No mean girl shit. Like I am part of growing up, women not being very kind to me. I'm sure it is a big driving factor in a lot of the work that I do because I was always kind of dance to the beat of my own drum. I was both the artist and the cheerleader. I was overtly like kind, incredibly sensitive. So I just had a lot. There was always a lot coming at me.
Right.
So mean girl shit we don't do at the studio. But our own things, like we're human, they show up.
Hmm.
And when we are triggered, it's because something is mirroring something back to us that needs to be spoken to, nurtured,
Hmm.
moved. Oftentimes, fucking moved out of our
Yeah.
bodies, you know? So that illumination actually becomes a pathway, right? But our space is sacred, and there is a undeniable respect that people have for one another. and boundaries as well, but me as the owner, as the leader in the space, and my team as well, there are certain things that we look for to just make sure that it can continue to be that
Right.
powerful, potent container that it is. But yeah, also I have no problem releasing people that this is not the right space for them. Something
Right.
that I have sat with over the years is that this is not for everyone, and it can't be, because then I can't serve the people that it's right for. So sending people lovingly on their way is not anything I have a problem with, you know?
Yeah. No, that's great. That's it's a good boundary to have and maintain. It's I think that in all business that should be, like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're a service, like
Yeah.
one of my first jobs is working for an internet company, and there was definitely clients that we had to fire because they were abusive to the staff, and
Yeah.
that's not okay. So it's really great to hear that. I've never known of course you're not like a gym, but like even a gym turning somebody away because they're a paying customer, like
Yeah.
so it's um very good to hear that, you have everybody's backs, and,
Yeah.
we want to keep it a cohesive space. And it's really a great community. Like, honestly, the people, I'm kind of an introvert,
Yeah.
and I walk in there, and actually it was kind of funny because like one of those things is, I was speaking with a member my first day that I became a member, and I showed up, and like having my two worlds like converge right now. It was kind of funny. And wouldn't you know, I knew somebody the first time I walked in, and I was like, damn,
Yeah.
I just wanted to keep this for me, like for this
Yeah.
space or whatever. And then we saw each other out in public a few weeks ago at Newton football game. And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, this is so weird. We're out in public. It's just
Yeah.
so funny.
Outside of the
It's
dark,
like,
like the
yeah,
vibes of the
because you have these special connecting
yeah.
moments with these people. And I think that it happened in the right amount of time. If I had run into her 2 days later at the grocery store, I might have like froze, and
Yeah.
just been like, what do I say? Like, how do I do this? But it's really magical, honestly, and it's really awesome.
Yeah. I think again, just like there is this undeniable appreciation and respect that we have when we sit in circle together and when we share space. And it doesn't matter if you're just, you know, sharing sweat or swapping tears and laughter. There is it's clearly shared like when you become a member, but also there's this woman love, like the silent woman love that like what you share here stays here, because a lot of people are moving through some really big things.
Yeah,
And vice versa, they're also celebrating things that maybe they're not ready to share with the world. Life has many layers, and I think that we all understand that it is so sacred that it stays within there. That what you're sharing that's taken you years to let your throat chakra release is not then going to be brought up in the grocery store, if you run
yeah.
into anyone.
Well, I wasn't afraid of that
Yeah.
exactly. It was just kind of like my worlds converging together
Yeah.
and
Yeah. And
not being in
also,
control of any of it.
but that is my deepest wish, I think, for every person that comes into this space, is that yes, what happens in the four walls of the studio is so sacred and so potent, but what happens with the other, 23 hours of your day? What happens with your family and your children? The integration is something that is so exciting for me to see, because I know what we do in class, in circle, in ceremony, and workshops is so special, but it has to find its way into your life. Otherwise, it's just another thing to check off your list.
Yeah.
So those
Yeah.
moments are exciting to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. That makes sense. Yes, that's how we evolve too. And honestly, it was really exciting for me to join because I thought I would make some connections, and I'm a mom, I'm divorced, I have 3 kids, and it's hard to make friends,
Yes.
and I
Especially as an
don't.
adult.
Yeah, like when your kids are little, it's much easier because you're with them all the time. So if you bring them to the park, you're likely to meet somebody. And I met some of the best friends that I have now that when my kids were little, but they've moved or whatever, and we all stay in touch. But to have someone nearby that, like, let's grab a coffee and like have a deep conversation, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So I'm really looking forward to that melding more like together to keep happening. Ugh.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to ask you on, oh, and actually, let me just mention this too. If you had any piece of advice for someone that maybe is watching that isn't local, that can't join in, or isn't really in the position yet to join, or something like that, what's one step that they could take for themselves to start digging in? To discover their themselves, their sensuality, to get comfortable.
Okay, this is gonna be this is gonna sound how it's gonna sound. Um,
Okay.
I would say that one of the best things that I offer people is a way to see themselves and feel themselves in new ways. To me, sensuality is all about sensation and feeling, but you don't always have access to an hour-long class or a welcoming community. But your body is constantly telling you things. And one of the things that we do as adults, whether you're at work, this is a big thing for teachers, probably moms too, is like not listen to the basic needs. So, starting to care for yourself from within, from an embodied place, literally starts with going to the bathroom when you need to go. Like if you got to
Hmm.
pee,
That's a
right?
good one.
Very simple, but it really will start like how many times have you been finishing an email and you're like, oh, let me just finish this line, or you're like having a conversation with someone and you have to go to the bathroom, you know?
Yeah.
So just starting listening to little sensations is a really good way to start caring for yourself, and caring for yourself in that way from within is going to start leading you to curiosity. So it seems pretty simple. Also, the other one, and this I'm not great at, is feeding yourself when you're hungry, you know?
Okay.
Um, taking a breath when you're starting to feel your chest close in on itself. So, like these little micro moments that you can offer yourself that don't cost anything, you don't have to go anywhere. You're just already starting to formulate a relationship with yourself that's maybe new.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, those are good. I wouldn't have thought to start there, but you're absolutely right. As you were saying it, I was like, yeah, I definitely have like waited to pee for like 3 hours before. Like,
Yes. Yes. It's
yeah,
yeah, I
and that's terrible.
we've
Yes.
all done it. Or we're like answering emails on the toilet, you know? It's like
Yeah.
those things where
Just
like being with your body is actually quite sacred, you know?
yes.
Um,
Yeah.
because I mean, listen, I love me a card practice. I love journaling. Give me a song and wiggle it out. All those things are super possible to do on your own. But I mean, just peeling it back to like basic needs is foundational if you want to do deep work. You know, if you really want to dig in and clear out, it's got to start with subtleties, you know? So
Hmm.
you can do that on your own.
I love it.
Pee
I
when
love
you
it.
gotta pee.
Yeah. Doesn't it seems very simple?
It does. And you know what? Because let's just call it able-bodied. We can do that, right?
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
need assistance doing that. Then that is something that you can provide yourself today.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
actually, there are going to be like a few hundred women that listen to this. And when they go pee the next time, they're going to go, I did it.
Taking care of myself.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without a doubt. I do have a question for you. How
Sure.
has been running your studio and engaging with your clients and doing all the things impacted your own personal growth journey?
Oh, wow. How much time we have?
Well, I probably should have started this with this one, but this podcast is everything. So it's, but I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Like my question is almost, you've been this for so long, and I say been this, like know you've been practicing this for a really long time. And a lot of people don't start out that way.
Yeah.
So I have to imagine, and they may start out from trauma, or that's what triggered
Mhm.
their change. So we'll have to do another podcast,
Yeah.
obviously. But but you must encounter so many transformations in front of you, and
Yeah.
things that um get evoked within you, that you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought about it that way. Like, so
Yeah.
if you want to give like a couple examples, one or two or whatever.
I will say, and I believe this comes from my mentor. I feel like this is where I heard it first, is that entrepreneurship is literally a crash course in self-development. Like you'll never get closer to the things that drive you crazy, the things that
I
drive you up.
love that.
Yeah,
Yes.
the things that
Yeah.
lift you up. It is a crash course in you sitting with self because when you're the boss, when you're the one that cuts the checks, that writes the emails, that creates the content, you're going to see so many new parts of yourself if you want to be a leader. If you don't want to be a
Mhm.
leader, fuck it. You don't have to do any of that. You can
Right.
just live your life, seeing your passion in a brick and mortar.
Hmm.
But I would say that I literally learn something every day. Um, I never thought that I would have a team. Like when I first opened the studio, I sincerely, and this is gonna sound how it's gonna sound, but I thought it would just be me teaching all the classes, doing all the things from now until I died, like for real. And then at some
I don't
point,
think that's so far-fetched to think of, though. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
I do think that entrepreneurs, especially women, because we are like, here's my plate, pilot,
Just
pilot, pilot,
yes.
pilot. I think there's a little room over here, put some more.
Right.
I was in that space. I mean, also when you're starting a business, margins are tight, so you
Right.
have to you have to do all the things. You do go through like a hustle mindset. Unless you are coming from means or you have some kind of funding, the truth is it's up to you for a long time.
Right.
But you can get stuck in that mindset because you're used to doing all the things for so long. The idea of delegation feels way more overwhelming. It's basically the idea of accepting and receiving help feels way more overwhelming than just trying to figure out how to do it all yourself.
Right.
But you cannot grow if you don't let shit go. You can't.
Hmm.
So having a team and my senior staff, they're still with me 4 years now. Incredible women has shown me so much in myself that I don't think I would have seen otherwise. My voice is much clearer. I have better gauge of boundaries. I also am just such a more, I don't want to use the word direct. Directness still feels a little sharp for my sensitive self, but communication, like the basis of human existence, my communication skills have gotten so much broader because
Hmm.
people that work for me learn differently. They have different needs. They're appreciated differently. They like to be acknowledged in different ways. Sticky conversations happen differently. So there's just this like beautiful web of possibility owning a business when you fully step into a leadership role. But it makes you look at your shit, you know? Definitely have a good therapist because shit.
That's really I commend you greatly on that, because there are a lot. We've all had different jobs or whatever where we may have had a boss that really kind of turned us off to certain things or
Yeah.
whatever. And I agree with you, being a leader and actually taking the time to know your people,
Yeah.
know that this one, this employee, is maybe a little bit more sensitive to this, and how to, obviously they have to take on their own responsibility
Yes.
too for the conversation, but to communicate openly and honestly is like one of the most important things. And
Yeah.
you seem to have like a really dedicated staff. I mean,
Yeah.
like that's, I mean, there's got to be a better word for it, but they are dedicated to you and your mission, and they all like I've never encountered. You ever go somewhere and they're like, oh,
Yes. I just go
like they'll
somewhere
make
where I
a
was like,
comment or something like
yeah,
that. You don't hear that there, and I've heard it at some surprising places, quite honestly,
yeah,
and that is awesome,
yeah.
because that speaks to you and your leadership and all of that.
Thank you. I mean, we're such dynamic creatures. We're constantly changing and shifting. We also come with different layers of baggage and shit, and we also come with different layers of genius and magic too. And whether it's clients and members coming in or people who want to be a part of the team, like I think part of my lane of genius is like letting people have the space or reflecting back to them that their magic, their unique vision or voice or music choice or whatever, and nurturing space for that to grow while reminding them we got shit to do. This is
Yes,
yeah, this is we got shit to do.
but we do have to work. Yes,
We do have to work,
this is
but
fun. Yes.
pleasurable. I think that a lot of times in the female entrepreneurial space right now, we're just trying to masculinize, like we're trying to feminize masculine structure. We're just trying to like paint it pink or something. Like I want my team, who is the most important part of this vision now because they're the ones holding space for you guys to enjoy what they're doing. To like be in pleasure because like I said with the resonance, like women, we feel shit. We see things. That is one of the most powerful things you can offer, in a community, in a coming from a leader, is like feel that. We see that. If my team was unhappy, you guys would know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
or let's just that's a very like unhappiness is like a huge gauge, right?
Or if they didn't want to be there, maybe. Or
Or
yeah.
and also we all get burnt out. Like I want to catch things before it's beyond. And
Hmm.
checking in and having communication allows for that buffer so that we're not having the like I'm exhausted, I can't take on one more piece of responsibility um, in real time while they're teaching a class, right? And that goes to
Right.
the same for moms and other people running businesses too. It's like just checking in with yourself, peeing when you gotta pee. Sometimes
Right.
you gotta take a break.
That is the homework for today.
Pee when you gotta
Yes.
pee. So yeah, I think when you're in intimate spaces, and our community is quite intimate, there just has to be this like I don't want to say open door. That's like so again feels a little masculine to me, but this needs to be pleasurable for you. This is an additive. There's only one person that works for me full time. Everyone else has full time jobs and lives and kids and new babies and pets. So you have to want to be here for a bigger reason than you just like it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to imagine this is,
Or
each one of your teachers, like this is probably something that fulfills something within them that they can share and help people and do. And so their mission is very aligned with yours, like
yeah.
their personal mission. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, other than like doing the good work. Yeah, I love
And
that.
then back to your original question about like what the growth I
Mm.
see in me.
Yes.
Each one of these women, including I just am going right now through a round of hires, like a very big round, probably the biggest since I opened. Each one of these women I fully trust has something to show me, something for me to step into a new pathway of communication, a new way of thought, a new idea for a class, a new way to communicate with people, play. Like I think that because I'm creative and curious and open, I know that people have things to show me too. I don't really lead from a like, I know what's best, get in line kind of place. Like I said, I
Hmm.
got shit to do, but just there could be so much more pleasure and enjoyment in workspaces. And so that's what that's what I reflect on daily. Like, how do we show up fully for you guys? And then how do we show up fully for ourselves? It becomes like a circular exchange.
I
Yeah.
love that. Good.
Yeah.
So I do have to say one thing before we go, and then I'm going to ask you to, share some information.
Sure.
Um, I have to say the first time that I did a pole dancing class specifically, I couldn't do the thing, physically, like I wasn't strong enough. And it was the first time as I'm staring at myself. Actually, was there a mirror? I think. Is the mirror on when you're, or is the mirror on? Are the curtains moved when you're on? Yeah, I think so, right?
What
I think
class?
I saw myself. Anyway, whatever. It was
Yeah.
Pole Essentials.
Yeah. Sometimes the curtains are open for that one so you can get
Okay, so
the
at any
feet.
rate, I think I stared at myself, or maybe I did in my head, and I couldn't do it. But it was the first time I've done different types of, workouts or exercises like my entire adult life, from CrossFit to spinning to, various like boot camps and stuff like that. And when you can't do something, you feel like you start beating yourself up. And I didn't, because I was like, oh, this is going to be really exciting to conquer for me, like to get up on the pole, because it's a little hard.
Yeah.
But that's how different it felt. Like the environment, the space, all of it. It wasn't like a competition with myself. It was just kind of like, all right, well, I'm going to flow this way instead, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I wanted to mention, because it was the first time in my life that I think I felt like I couldn't do something. Everybody else is doing it, but I didn't beat myself up for it. I just kind of took it
Yeah.
and went with it. So I am so glad that we were able to do this. Do you have any events or anything that you want to share coming up, and where can people find you, and all that good stuff?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just acknowledge that's like huge. That's a huge shift, right? In like literally going from criticizing and picking apart your body or things that you can't do and just taking a moment to appreciate or even be excited about what's ahead of you. I
Mm-hmm.
think oftentimes when things are brought up, like in our systems, in our minds, we can contract and we get scared and we say like fuck that. But being able to have like a soft system or a curiosity or support around you to make that shift in that moment where typically you would have gone, I can't do this, I blank, 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 fill in all the unkind things that show up when we feel like we're not enough, right? And
Mm-hmm. Yep.
just shift into, all right, this is hard. Let's do it.
Yeah. It is hard, and
Yeah.
I'll get there.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also there's no timeline, right? Like I think oftentimes physical spaces, there is this again, this era of like push and go. And that's what happens when people walk into the space and they want to get to the top of the pole immediately. It's like, whoa, like let's just feel the feet in the floor first before you want to
Mm-hmm.
go on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but last thing I'll say about that too is when you're used to go, go, going, when you are, just pushing, 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 first of all, your nervous system and your body are in clench all the time and they're used to that tightness. So slowing down is gonna feel like crashing a freight train crashing into a wall.
Mm-hmm.
And when you slow down, sometimes the first sensations that show up are not very pleasant. And that is oftentimes enough for people to be like, fuck this, you know? But
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah, because they don't want, it's hard when you've never done that before to
yeah,
like
also
quiet
we don't
everything. Yeah.
we don't want to feel we don't want to feel bad shit, we don't want to
Right.
feel we don't want to sit with
Mm-hmm.
discomfort. It's impossible for so many of us. But what's on the other side of that is so much freedom
Right.
because the slowness and that's where the sensuality lives, in feeling and being able to digest the feedback that your body's giving you is just really such a powerful foundation for anything that you want to do. Whether you want to run your own company or you just want to be able to sit at a table with your family members that drive you crazy. You know?
Yes.
So I just want to say that and also just acknowledge that huge moment for you because that shift, that dialogue, that feeling in your body that you don't shrink, you instead take up more space, carries through in so many other places outside of the studio.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think I've been on this journey for a long time. I started my blog almost a decade ago,
Amazing.
after, after my mom died. And it's just kind of, I thought 3 years ago I had figured, like, I had found it and gotten to this step. And then more shit happens. And then I'm like, oh my gosh. And then more shit happens. And then I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I'm finally at this spot now where, yeah, it's like all the freedom in the world. And it just keeps getting better. And it's so fucking cool. And, um, yeah, I think I'm where I'm meant to be right now. Like, and it, yeah, like nothing short of freedom. Freedom is the perfect answer, the perfect description for it. And not to beat myself up over those things is huge, because when you come from a place where you were criticized for all of these things, and then you get triggered later in life, and then you dig into it and you're like, holy shit, that's why. And then, and here I am, and it's like, wow, I don't have to like deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
And it just, yeah, there's like no dark cloud anymore. Um,
Man,
so I can attest for that. But yeah, it's hard getting through that stuff. And yeah.
I would say too, like the criticism that happens in our psyches and then lands in our body. Man, I think it would be easy to, and this is a subject for another day. Like, I think it
Yeah.
would be easy to point the blame towards the masculine, right? And there are a lot of dynamics there that need nurturing and love. But the reason I think that we're so damn hard on ourselves is like, does our hair look good? Are we wearing makeup? How flat is my stomach? Does my ass look fat in these jeans or whatever? That actually comes from like we dress ourselves up for other women. We dress ourselves and put ourselves in these boxes so that we are approved by other women. And I think coming into a space where that shit just A is being dismantled or doesn't exist allows so much permission for us individually as well as heals so many like wounds, sister, mother, daughter, things like that, any of the feminine archetypal exchanges, because we've all just kind of like been pitted against each other. And
Hmm.
actually, that's where the criticism comes from. Men don't give a shit what we look like. They
No,
don't
I know.
care what
Yeah.
we're wearing.
This is
They don't.
another top. Yeah.
Yeah, a topic for another
Yeah.
day, but it's true.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
But you're
healing.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of healing that happens when you actually feel companionship or compassion or camaraderie with the woman sitting next to you.
Hmm.
That she's not going to out you, that she's not going to say, hey, remember that really hard thing that you said to me? And then explain it to a group of people or on a podcast, right?
Right.
Like it comes back to trust, and it comes back to the power of community and actually community, not cliques, community.
Right. Yes. I support.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
support.
Absolutely.
So how can you be a part of that?
Yeah. So how does somebody knock on the door and get in?
So, our website is a beautiful place to see what's going on. All people begin, we have a wait list. So, our community is membership based. We do have some one off workshops that are really special. But first of all, what I have to share and the way that it actually can be integrated in your life cannot happen in one 60-minute class. It cannot happen dropping in here and there when you have a stressful week that
Right.
actually is feeding into your like instant gratification
It
needs.
takes commitment.
It takes devotion. You have to
Yes.
want to actually drip this into your life versus just get a quick fix and, oof, I feel better now. Fuck it. It doesn't work like that. So you put yourself on the wait list, and then our beautiful manager gives you a call, and we just have a conversation with you because we want to know if we're the right fit. We might
Yeah.
not be, if you don't want to sit in circle, probably not the space for you. If
Right.
you're curious about it and it makes you uncomfortable, we can support you in that. But this space is not for everyone, and I'm fine with that. So we have a conversation with you, and then we let you know what beginner sessions are available. And our beginner sessions are very gentle. Like, you're not going to come in and do crazy tricks and start twerking. Like, we start with some breathing and a little bit of connection, because our bodies and our systems and our minds, they need softness. This everything is harsh and go and
Yeah.
hard and instant. And so, literally, the first thing we do together is take a breath. If you can walk through the door, you're good. Yeah.
I agree. And I think your intro classes, because that's obviously how I started, but um, you, it's like the perfect beginner. Like it really, like you really did put that together well,
Thank
you know,
you.
for someone especially that isn't used to taking the time for themselves, but is open to do that.
Yeah.
It is the perfect first step in the door. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I've spent
So
about, oh, sorry. I was just
no,
gonna
it's
say,
okay. Go ahead.
I've spent a lot of time. I've been in this field of work. I've been working intimately with women in the sensual movement space for over a decade, but I actually began as poof, if we'll go back like early 20s, I was a collegiate cheerleading coach. So I have always been in space with women. That land is very harsh, if you will.
Yeah.
But I did always bring like a community kind of fun component to it. But anyway, so I've been in this realm for over a decade, and it has taken me a long time to round out the beginner class so that it is nourishing and it sparks some curiosity, and it is going to bring some stuff up in you. When you're moving your body, you're moving shit around. But I mean, in the beginning, you can take or leave the pole. It has
Right.
nothing to do
Yeah.
with the pole. My goal is to start to open up a conversation between you and your body, between you and your sensuality, between you and your sexual energy that has nothing to do with a partner, and just remind you that, like, there's so much wisdom within, and it's okay to slow down and do stuff for you. You have to.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
So, what is your website?
Our website is www.thriveembodiedarts.com. So that's where you can
Awesome.
find us. And our Instagram is always popping full of fun things too. But you can get yourself on the wait list right on the landing page of the website. It's also probably linked in our bio in Instagram as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I'm so glad that we got to do this. It was
Yeah.
good. I love coming to your space. I can't wait to get back there. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad this happened.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And it's been amazing to speak to you years ago and then have you come into the space and then be having this conversation with you and seeing it in real time. Um, that lights me up and makes me want to just continue, and be better for the people that walk into our space. So I appreciate it.
I love that. And I love that Thrive is a part of like my journey now. And I just really, truly enjoy it. So I can't wait to see what comes next.
Yes, so many
Um,
things.
yes. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you can do me a favor, please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening, either on YouTube or Spotify. Make sure you check out the blog at myinnerstruggle.com and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And check out the Self Love Club where we can grow together. And I will be seeing you soon.